In 2018, a young woman named Elizabeth was killed in a tragic incident that shocked the nation. But her death wasn't just a random act of violence. It was a result of a justice system that failed her, a system that was supposed to protect her, but instead allowed her fate to spiral into disaster. This is a story of how a flawed justice system stole her life. Elizabeth was a 25-year-old woman full of life, dreams, and hope for the future. She had just finished college and was starting a new chapter in her life. But in an instant, everything changed. It all began when she crossed paths with someone she trusted, a person who would ultimately become the reason she never saw her 26th birthday. What followed was a horrifying chain of events, all of which could have been prevented if the justice system had done its job. Instead, it failed her at every turn. It started with a series of missteps in law enforcement. Elizabeth had been in a relationship with a man who had a history of violence and abuse. But despite his criminal record, he was out on the streets, free to move about as he pleased. Multiple calls to police, reports of threats and harassment, all ignored. Time and time again, Elizabeth tried to get help. She had reported her abuser several times, but the justice system didn't act swiftly enough. It wasn't until it was too late that they finally took the situation seriously. By then, the damage had already been done. And when the unthinkable happened, when this woman was found dead at the hands of her abuser, the justice system's failure didn't stop. The trial was a farce. The defense painted her as the aggressor, while her abuser, who had a long history of violent behavior, was given a lighter sentence. The injustice didn't end there. Her family was left without the answers they needed, and her killer, in many ways, was allowed to escape with minimal consequences. But what if I told you that the system that failed Elizabeth continues to fail so many others? What if I told you that similar cases are happening all across the country, where the justice system turns a blind eye to the cries of the vulnerable? There's something terribly wrong with how we treat victims of violence in this country. And it's not just about one failed case. It's a pattern, a system-wide flaw that leaves many victims without a voice and many criminals walking free. In the next part of this story, we'll uncover how these failures are connected. Why so many women like Elizabeth find themselves trapped in an unrelenting cycle of abuse, with no one to help them. Stay with us as we reveal the shocking truth behind the failures of the justice system. Elizabeth is just one of many whose story has been lost in the noise of a broken system. We have to demand accountability, because if we don't, who will? If you think her story is one that needs to be heard, if you believe in justice, hit that like button and share this video. Let's start a conversation, because the more people know, the more we can fight for real change. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we're going to dive even deeper into this case and the others that have been lost in the cracks of the system.